Work has evolved for Ed, and talking about it can be challenging as we're trying to figure out what it means to us. From delivering papers as a kid to becoming a father now and realizing he actually needs to be around as there is now work on the home front. For years, work has been about the paycheck, but work can be purpose, presence, and expression. Let's roll right in. All right. Welcome to the Work Sucks, But I Like It podcast. Today we've got Ed Howard. He's the founder of One Breath Leadership, a new human centered leadership framework that combines neuroscience, psychology, AI, and 3 decades of Zen training. Drawing from his 20 years as a regional head of compliance and global banking, he teaches practical tools for clarity, resilience, and peak decision making to navigate burnout, feeling overwhelmed, and cognitive overload. He's also the author of One Breath Leadership. Ed, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks very much.
Now, I look forward to this, Ed, especially with that kind of intro with Zen and, with work here. So first question, Ed, we like to ask our guests is, how do you define work today? How do you define it?
Wow, that's a really good question because it's changed so massively for me. Um, Certainly in the last 3 or 4 years, but especially in the last kind of 12 months. Um, and we could probably spend half an hour on this, so I'll try not to. Uh, I guess I started off with a paper delivery round when I was I think I was just about 14, which is the legal sort of age you can do it in the UK. And that was really driven by, wanting to buy comics and sweets and stuff. So I think and that mentality continued right up until I was about 45. So that it was a means to an end, that it was something that you had to do if you wanted to be able to buy stuff. um but all that's changed in the last few years as I've moved into this phase of uh work being an expression of who I am, of what I want to how I want to show up in the world, and how I want to kind of uh, um, and what I want to bring to hopefully bring to other people in terms of the things that I've learned and stuff that people may find useful. And then on top of that, I became a dad just over 2 years ago, and then again about a week ago. Uh,
Wow,
so
congrats. Nice.
yeah, I'm launching a book, launching a business, and having a baby all in like 2 months. So the universe may be testing me in some way, or just thinks I'm nuts. But uh, yeah, I think you know, uh, especially when you become a dad later in life, it's important for you to be around. And certainly, a lot of the way that I worked in my 20s and 30s, that wouldn't have been possible. So, but I think those are the kind of three main themes uh, that spring to mind with that question.
So I love that, Ed. So I really kind of want to walk through this sort of like transformation, how you had like, started off when you're 14, I love like trying to get comics and sweets and stuff. What was that kind of changing moment? You said when you were 45 of how you went from realizing, okay, work can be beyond the paycheck. Can you walk us through that sort of aha moment when work was just beyond a means to an end?
Don't know if it wasn't an aha moment in terms of, uh, okay, I get this now. It was more um, my dad was sort of coming to the end of his life, and I think a realization, not that he ever asked me to, be a certain way or achieve certain things. It wasn't really like that at all. It was probably kind of a late penny dropping of, uh, and it's funny. This appears in Zen literature and stuff all the time, that that you can do whatever you want. You know, you can do whatever you please. But what we tend to do as human beings, and you can do this over a period of 30 years if you like, or hopefully if some of your listeners are in their sort of 20s, or at university or whatever. um you can define how you're going to work, but you have to weigh up what the pros and cons are, or the pluses and minuses. So, it's also, I think it's also based on your background, insofar as, for me, I didn't have kind of financial backing and so on. And so when I left home and went to university, I knew pretty much straight away that I had to start earning, because I didn't because the alternative, wasn't great. There's all these different sort of variables in terms of how you choose, but um, I think all of it requires uh, to be kind of present in the moment, and know who you are, and know where you are, and know what you need to do. Uh, and then really it's about kind of making good decisions that are aligned with, those three things. And that's easier said than done. It requires a fair bit of failure. It requires a fair bit of banging your head against brick walls that you'll look back and think, I don't know why I was banging my head on that wall. But uh, that's kind of the fun of it, or the joy of it. Although, I've been through stages or jobs where it hasn't been particularly joyful.
I'd love to explore that, Ed. I mean, this is the Work Sucks, but I Like It podcast. I know you've got your coaching stuff. I want to get into that. Definitely want to talk about your book. But walk us through, I know it wasn't one thing, but 20 years you spent doing this, regional head of compliance and global banking. What about corporate did you not like? And then I guess if you were to go back now, could you change that today? Or maybe not. What sucked about corporate then?
So so many things, but I think it boils down to uh, whether you view it as something that you don't want to do, or that you hate doing, or whether it's a means to whatever end you're looking for in terms of a job and a paycheck. So I think there's two kinds of people that really uh, that for whom it really didn't suck, and they were kind of the steady people that just wanted to turn up, not really uh, change anything, do a steady job, and kind of go home to their families. And I think for a lot of them, it didn't suck. And then the other people were like, you get this especially in banking, were the people who were like super into it, man. Like, I want to be the best banker ever, or the best trader ever, or the best salesperson ever. Um, and so it didn't suck for them. And for me, uh, I did. Looking back on it now, I think it was a process that I had to go through, where it didn't suck that much at the start, because it was new, and I was kind of in a very fast-paced environment that was sort of that challenged me, from a problem-solving perspective and so on. Um, but the kind of further I moved along with it, the more it became about uh, aligning yourself with senior leaders and um, playing a a kind of political game that I just really wasn't um, that interested in doing. Uh, and so that kind of sucked because I enjoyed the problem solving element, and also I worked in compliance, which sort of moved from being this very kind of uh, problem solving, working both with the business and with with the best interests of the sort of business and the kind of wider public at heart, to becoming a much more kind of automated box. It's going to get a lot more automated, but a box ticking exercise where you kind of covered the bases and so on. And so I think if you're the kind of person that wants to express yourself through your work, uh, that probably isn't for you. So, um, but having said that, my last job in Singapore, I had some of the best uh, kind of experiences because of where we were placed in Asia. I worked a lot with people in India or people in Malaysia and Indonesia, and working on deals, around in those countries with people from those countries, and that was just a fantastic experience on a sort of human level. I worked with some really great people too. So, uh, I think all jobs have the pluses and minuses, right? To go back to what I think I said when I started, it's about where you sit with it and how you view it.
Ed, let's kind of transition now into your, I guess, practice with Zen, right? It's really a lot of sitting with yourself. Can you walk us through what Zen is for listeners that might not know what Zen is? Like, how did you get into it? And then how has it sort of helped you today? So, what is it? And then how has it helped you today?
So, what is it? It, I mean, it, it started in about 400-500 BC. It's kind of a branch of Mahayana Buddhism. So it began in India, moved into China, and then spread around. Uh, Zen is the Japanese word for it. Obviously, it moved into the US and Europe in the kind of 50s and 60s, with the beat poets. In terms of what it is, it's really practicing being in the moment. You know, there's 1,500 years worth of literature on that, but that's really what it boils down to. In terms of how I encountered it, I moved to Japan straight after university. Became interested in it because it's such a big part of the culture there, um, and spent some time in a monastery just before I left Japan in 2000, and then continued to sort of study thereafter. But I always kind of saw it as separate to my work life. Um, I guess because people may see it as a sort of spiritual practice, and also because I didn't really see how the two fitted together necessarily. Um, but what it did do was probably keep me more grounded and more sane as I was kind of working through, uh, um, my career in the city or in finance. Um, but the missing piece, funnily enough, was bringing the two together, which is what I'm doing now with the book and the consultancy and coaching work that I do. Um, and so integrating the two required this kind of period of stepping away from the finance world and having a feeling that my path forward was to kind of bring the two things together. And so that's really what the book is about. Uh, it's got quite a lot of laughs in it because I think you have to. Yeah, I think you have to be able to kind of have a sense of humor about your career, uh, especially in the sort of current economic climate. Uh, there's also a lot of kind of stuff that I tried and tested over 20 years, um, that I've left out of the book because it didn't really work for me. So basically, you've got the condensed version of how this might be useful in a corporate or business setting.
I love that. So, one book and one breath. How did you land on one breath? So, I guess I'm not familiar with Zen, Ed. I study a lot of, so I'm a yoga teacher. I love practicing yoga. I've come across, the Sutras of Patanjali, the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, things like that. Does Zen have like forms of meditation? Is it chanting? I guess what's just so I can get on the same page here of what Zen kind of is? I know there's a koans, right?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
really good question. I think the the kind of mainstream understanding of it is that it's a seated um, meditation practice, uh, and it involves long periods of sitting. But one of the things that the book does and is that uh, you can pretty much do it anywhere, and that that you'll always have the long kind of seated form of it. Um, but most of us that are working for a company or working for ourselves, or you know, have children screaming in the background, which if you can hear, I do apologise.
It's all good. It's part of
The
the
two
work.
year
Part of the
old is
work, Ed.
the 2 year old is up and ready to go. But uh, you know, what you really need is something that you can do, at these little kind of micro points during the day. And so that's where the one breath thing comes in, because you're anchoring in essentially one breath's worth of meditation. Um, and then you build that you're building that into your day. Uh, and it kind of broadens out from that in terms of, you know, obviously that will have kind of physiological and psychological um, benefits, but it also has kind of benefits around decision making, um, you know, EQ, in terms of how in touch with people you work with you are, or the team, or if you're managing people that you're managing. Um, and as I deconstructed everything that I kind of learned over 30 years, I really wanted to bring something that was going to help people, um, you know, kind of one in an easy way and in a really deconstructed way, and then they could go away and build on that. And if you want to go and practice Zen in a monastery or with a group or whatever, you can. But as a yoga teacher, I think you would get it straight away because yoga's basically about the breath, right? And
Yep.
um,
Absolutely.
the bending yourself into a pretzel stuff
Yeah, pretty much,
is
pretty
all good
much.
fun too. But um, it all basically all comes down to centering yourself in the moment, which is where I think there's a big alignment between Zen and yoga.
No, I love that, Ed. So, one of the things we talk about on the show, Ed, is that success is not a matter of good luck, it's good skills. So, you talked about being in the moment. How can we develop this skill? So, when I think of like your work of Zen and corporate, they're like oxymorons to me, but I love how you blended them together, right? They're so at the opposite ends of the spectrum right now. What's the skill for people today to navigate work and use the principles of Zen that you're talking about?
Um, okay, so we'll strip away all the Zen and kind of everything that I've just talked about, and um, let me sort of briefly talk you through the practice that I teach in the book, because it's only one breath's worth. And so, if you can, as long as your nose isn't blocked, it's uh, either standing upright or sitting upright, uh, with your mouth closed. Breathe in for a count of six if you can through your nose into the lower part of your belly, so below the like two fingers below where your belly button is. Um, Now you can do that just from a physiological perspective, um, and there's a and then obviously you breathe back out again. Uh, yeah, don't just stick there. Um, but obviously that will have loads of physiological uh, benefits. But if you want to kind of zen it up, uh, you follow that breath. I can't believe I just said that.
I
Uh,
love that. That's your new hashtag, by the way, Zen it up.
yeah, yeah. Oh God, it's going to follow me.
It's
Um,
amazing.
so, like, follow your breath with your mind, whatever, or your brain, or whatever it is. Your awareness. So follow it down through your nose and the back of your throat, um, in through your lungs, and then keep going to into that bottom place into your belly, and then back up. And what that does is, and that's kind of it. Now, obviously, we do stuff with that in the book, but at a very basic level, um, that's going to do lots of things. So, and I used this phrase the other day that it acts like a handbrake on your sort of chattering mind, for just you know those 12 seconds. And if you're a small person, you may be 4 seconds in and 4 seconds out will be enough, or 5 seconds. You kind of want to do it enough that you're feeling you're kind of conscious that you're focused on your breathing, right? S- Follow it down with your mind all the way to that place at the bottom of the belly, and then follow it back out again. Um, you, and basically, what that does is it takes your mind off whatever hurricane it's currently in that moment, and centers you back, um, you know, in your body, in your kind of center of gravity. Uh, and because your mind's following your breath in that way, um, it will act as that handbrake.
So, Ed, I love this idea of like, with the breath, right? Keeping it that simple for people. So, how can listeners, when they start to integrate breath, they hopefully pick up your book and read it, how do we measure success with our breath? You talked about chattering, calming. I love the handbrake for the chattering mind. So I guess let me frame it this way. We go to the gym, right? And we're doing a workout. We know that we get stronger because we're lifting more weights. When I keep breathing this practice, keep practicing Zen, how do I know if I'm improving? What are the marks that you kind of say, hey, you're doing a good job, if you will? I'm on the right path.
So you'll know that you're on the right track when you start stacking those breaths. You'll actually feel it depending on his situation. When you try that process that I've just described to you, you may feel it up straight away. Oh wow, I feel clearer. You know, there's there's a kind of space opened up here that wasn't there before. So you may get it immediately, um, but especially when you start to stack that throughout the day, um, and this is where what I'm doing crosses over a little bit with mindfulness training. In that, if you do that, you know, let's say you get up and you make coffee every morning, and if you're like me and you use instant because you haven't got time for all the other stuff, you open the top off the coffee jar. If you do that one breath there once, that's one a day, and then maybe you put sugar in it because you've still not grown out of that like I have. Uh, um, you could do another one there, and you're going to be taking those breaths anyway, because otherwise you're just going to fall over. So um, it's really just like reps in the gym, um, building that during the day, and everybody's life is different, and everyone has their own little habits and stuff. So it's really about building those in, uh, and what you'll notice is physiologically you'll become calmer because you're breathing properly, you're using your diaphragm. Um, Probably become a little bit healthier and catch less colds because you're breathing through your nose and not your mouth. Um, your mind will get a break from the constant chatter uh, more regularly through the day because most of us in an office environment or even working from home, or if you've got a 2-year-old going nuts in the background like I have, uh, you're in this like constant borderline fight or flight response, which has loads of physiological effects in terms of cortisol and so on. But it also means that you just never get that break. So, so you're essentially changing your brain waves through your nose, through the process of breathing, and opening up like a different way of being or thinking. When you start to do it, you'll start to feel like control's not the right word, but you're much more in the flow of your day to day. Time passes more easily. You feel more kind of relaxed um, when when uh, negative things happen to you at work, or someone chews you out, or somebody hasn't kind of delivered what they promised, or whatever. You'll just find yourself being much more okay. Well, this is where we are. This is the- you know the, in this moment. This is what I'm facing. What do I do next? And I know that sounds really simple, uh, but when you combine it with the breathing and the sort of very simple technique, um, you'll notice things change.
So, certainly a lot of benefits from breathing. What would you say is the one biggest takeaway if listeners were to pick up your book today? What is the one takeaway that you want your reader to take away with them and incorporate?
Just to try it and see and see what happens. Um, there's an old Zen story about a master saying to his student, there's this list of things I can't do for you. I can't eat your meals. I can't go to the toilet for you, and I can't live your life for you either. So we spend a lot of time looking outside ourselves for the answers to things. If I can just get this promotion, I'll be happy. Or if I can just get up in the morning and go to the gym, I'll be fitter and stuff. Just kind of come inwards for one breath to start with, and I think what you'll find is you maybe don't want that promotion as much because the guy that you're going to be working for is a maniac, and you'll end up being unhappy, and you'll start to see things in a different way rather than just being driven in this kind of hamster on a wheel thing that I think if you've worked in a big corporate, all of us feel from time to time. So yeah.
Absolutely. So, one more time for the audience, for the listeners, Zed, what's the name of the book and where can we find it?
Okay, so it's coming out on the 24th of March. It'll be on Amazon. But if you go to the website onebreathleadership.com, there's some free stuff in the top corner. So there's a couple of chapters from the book, and there's a couple of kind of diagnostic tools as well, and the audio of how to practice it. It's really that's really easy. You won't need to listen to me for very long, so that's a promise. But I'm also going to be doing an early readers kind of sign up thing in the next. That should be live this week. So I don't know when this is going out. We're 9th of February now. It should be ready in the next couple of days. So if people are interested in getting a PDF version of the book a little bit early, there'll also be a button on the website as well where they can do that and sign up for it. So, if you're interested in doing that,
Awesome. We'll drop a link in the episode details. Ed, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much.
thank you, Tony. That was great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
So, like I said, talking about work isn't always easy. There's a lot that could be said and a lot that probably shouldn't be said. But Ed reduces it to one simple thing: the breath. And that's our skill today because success isn't good luck, it's good skills. Get the reps in, as Ed says, even when you're making a cup of coffee. This is so important, right? As a yoga teacher, the first lesson I give to students when they're on their mats is to breathe, not blasting some Taylor Swift song ready to have a dance party in the yoga class, but to recognize the breath. As James Nestor explains in his book, Breath, a solid inhale and exhale should be at least 5 seconds each. And the idea that leaders need to take more solid breaths really is critical to the workplace culture changing today. Ed's message with this book is timely. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.